It is the monthly slot on the country where we tell you how much your farm is worth. Peter Newbold is the GM of PGG Wrightson Real Estate. And Peter, is the rural market mirroring the housing market at the moment? Lack of activity, falling prices? What's happening out there?
I think it's a bit different, in my opinion, than the residential lifestyle. Sales are still moving through. We're in that sort of peak April, period. The only thing I would say is we're probably seeing, more due diligence taking place. And I guess that's pushing things out. The other interesting thing we've seen at the moment is a number of late listings coming in autumn, which is another interesting piece. Pricing, I think a lot of that has taken place already. So it's at a level that buyers are happy with. And again, that buyer pool is small and very discerning. So that's probably the summary at the moment, Jamie.
Let's address the elephant in the room. Forestry, carbon farming on sheep and beef country. National's ag policy yesterday, will that put the scarers up the market, or will it perhaps encourage people to maybe take a punt and get into it before the election?
Well, it's an interesting one. I guess we don't know what's going to happen in October, but I sat back and looked at it and I thought, what it may do is just stimulate a little bit of activity over the next few months. If people were looking at that, then, they don't know what's going to happen in October. So my gut feeling is I think we might see a little bit of activity in that space because of what the announcement they've just made.
Now, we know the banks are tightening up, as they always do. Some would call them fair weather friends, others would call them pragmatists. I don't know. But I do know from anecdotal evidence that if you want to buy a farm at the moment, you've got to have a pretty good case.
Yeah, look, you're 100% correct there, and we're seeing it all the time. I think the other thing that probably was affecting that was where values are. As values now have sort of dropped in some areas, and again, between areas it's all very different. But I think that is one of the key drivers that has probably influenced the banks. But definitely funds are tighter, and that's clear.
So from a market peak, and I know you probably don't have the answer off your head, but I'm going to ask you this, in percentage terms, what do you reckon the rural market has dropped by?
Yeah, that's a tough one because, you name a number and then suddenly everyone thinks that's the whole country. But, and I would just say, you really got to look at it between all the different categories. So, dairy, sheep and beef, horticulture, whatever. I'd be probably nervous to put a percentage on it. But definitely in all categories there's been movement down. And again, you've got to look at that as how close the property is down, what the soil's like, what the improvements are like. So, yeah, I probably haven't answered your question, Jamie. It's not that I don't want to, it's just that there's so many variables.
Well, let me throw a number at you, 10 to 20%.
Yeah, that could fit with a lot of properties at the moment.
You at PGG Wrightson not only sell farms, you also are big in the lifestyle market because it kind of boomed at the beginning of COVID. What's happening there now?
Yeah, look, again, I sit back and I go, I believe that the values are at the bottom of the cycle. There's a little bit of activity at the moment. The challenge is going to be what's it going to be like in spring. One of the other things, which is, I guess if you look back in history and it's going to take place again, is we've got an election coming up. So whether that will stall things during that 6 or 8 week period, who knows? But I think the values are at a level now where buyers can feel comfortable. And I think coming into the spring, we'll see more activity. We might see a gap around that election time. And then after that, I think we'll see some movement forward in that lifestyle and provincial residential marketplace. That's my opinion.
Peter Newbold, always good to catch up on the country, and thank you on behalf of the Riversdale Golf Club for hosting some Riversdale farmer mates of mine at the Hills. They had a great day and they think you're a great bloke, even though I think the whole lot of you racked up some good numbers.
Yeah, look, it's always good to catch up with people in rural New Zealand, and there was a lot of banter and we had a hell of a lot of fun, and that was the main thing.
Thank you very much. It's much appreciated. We'll chat again next month.
Cheers, Jamie.